Hi, this is Tiffany Domino with howtoentrepreneur.org, and today I want to talk to you about 25 signs that you're being manipulated by salespeople. So, this topic is so heavy on my heart because I do lots of product reviews, as you know, and I do a lot of studying in my industry, and I've just been able to observe a lot of these sales tactics that are being used to get people to buy. And some of them are just not ethical, and some of them are outright manipulation. And I want to help you to identify the difference because it's become so commonplace that we're accepting manipulation and we're accepting unethical practices on a widespread scale. And so I really wanted to talk about that. Because I've seen it happen in churches, I've seen it happen in marriages, I've seen it happen in business, and it's just something that's becoming very commonplace nowadays. And I just wanted to talk about it with you and to help you to identify manipulation, especially in a business setting or in a sales situation, so that you can back away. Because honestly, I don't recommend you doing business with companies who overtly are manipulative because it doesn't go away. And typically, if their salespeople are allowing overt manipulation like that, then it transcends into the leadership and into the billing and into other practices, and you can get trapped into something that you really don't want to be into. So let's get started. Now, I am 100% for sales. I believe that sales can be a way to introduce people to good products and services. I personally practice sales. Um, I'm 100% for persuasion. I think that sometimes there's been situations in my life where I don't even identify a solution I might need, but someone else, like maybe my mom, she'll see that that Tiffany, you should be doing this, or and sometimes with my kids, I'll notice that maybe they're not aspiring to be what they could be, or they need an additional push. Now, that is not what I'm against because, of course, we all at times need that push or where somebody else who may be more knowledgeable, maybe a mentor or a parent or even in a business situation, you can have people who are a positive push for you. And sometimes it requires them to persuade you to take action on something. I'm absolutely not against that, but I believe it needs to be done with integrity. I believe that it needs to be done with honesty, and the intentions of it have to be selfless. It shouldn't be for selfish gain or for greed or anything like that. And sometimes it can be hard to tell the difference, and that's why we're having this discussion today. So, I believe that some people who are manipulative have no idea that what they're doing is manipulation. And I've done that before. So I'm not trying to point fingers at people and say that that manipulation is something that can't be easy to get into. It's so common that you can pick up these manipulative habits and not even be aware of it. I've read different books on sales or on relationships and um, hear how people advise you, and they'll give you advice and you'll read it and it'll sound like, yeah, that will work. And then before you know it, you're practicing something that's manipulative, and um, it may not be like really what's best for the other person. It might be more of you imposing your will on the other person and kind of bum rushing them because, I mean, we're human and we do have a selfish nature. So sometimes we have to put that under subjection to something. And so um, there are there's a dangerous line between persuasion and manipulation. And a lot of people cross the line because they're trying to influence people. And it can happen, maybe you're trying to influence your husband to do something, or maybe you're trying to influence your kids to do something. And then you just cross the line because you want them to do this and they're doing that. And and it can happen a lot in sales. Maybe you have a certain income goal. Maybe it's Christmas time. You want to be able to get stuff for your kids. So then you are over the top and you bum rush people. Um, and so it's something we really constantly have to be aware of, is that we're putting other people first, because that's where the real reward is in treating people how you would want to be treated. And even if the other person is wrong, sometimes you just have to love them through. And I know it can be like you think it's a customer, or it's a teacher, or it's somebody that you don't feel that you should quote unquote love. In my opinion, love is something that we should give to everybody. And I understand not everybody deserves it, but um, I have a Christian worldview, and as a Christian, I believe that God, He doesn't shine the sun on people because they deserve it. He doesn't give water to people because they deserve it. He doesn't give oxygen to people because they deserve it, and He doesn't give love to people because they deserve it. I mean, you have your next breath because He loves you, and with that worldview in mind, that's why I believe it's important um, to walk in integrity and to love people even when they don't deserve it. And um, as a result of that, I also feel that when we approach sales and things like that, that we should be thinking about the other person and what's in the best interest for them before we're thinking about ourselves and what's in the best interest for us. And so we have to choose our sales approaches, and is the option to choose a sales approach based off of integrity, or based off of what's best for the other person. And it's also the approach where you can choose to sell based off of lying, based off of being super unethically charismatic, based off of omitting information. And I can say I've seen people who approach sales in an unethical way, and they're still able to make their sales. Um, I think that it's harder for them to secure their sales long term, and for them to build the genuine loyalty and the relationships where people trust them, um, and the same level of authority when they approach sales unethically. But a lot of people aren't even aware of what unethical sales looks like. They may have grown up in a manipulative household, and they might even be drawn to manipulative behavior. Um, and I like Dr. George Simon. I can put a link to him in the description box, but he has a book called In Sheep's Clothing, and he has a lot of other books about character disturbance, about narcissism, about being a psychopath, emotional control, and sociopathic behavior patterns. And a lot of this manipulation goes into that. And if you study psychology at all, you would find that narcissism, sociopathic behavior, psychopathic behavior has become so common nowadays. With the rates of abuse and neglect and things like that from in the child, from the child, when you're a child. Um, and when you have those type of upbringings, then it makes you more prone to accept behavior patterns or like manipulation from salespeople, from marketing people, or in professional environments, or even in your house. And so I want to give you some examples. Now, I want to show you what persuasion looks like versus manipulation through these examples. And so here's example number one. This is a person says, stop being a lazy, unsuccessful bum and start making $500 a day by playing around on Facebook. Simply by clicking like and adding a template statement onto Facebook 1 hour per week, you can earn the residual income of $500 per day. Buy now to get more information. So that's example number one. Example number two, get my free book, just pay $12.99 for shipping. So that's example number two. Pretty common, right? And this is example number three. If you want to learn how to start a business, I'd love to help you today. I have over 100 hours of free coursework that you can look at. Then if you still have questions or concerns, I offer consulting or premium courses that you can take a look at. If you'd like to jump right into the premium options, click here. So that's example three. And then example four. Let me show you how to achieve your goal of setting up a website over the next 30 seconds. Check out my step-by-step tutorial that will guide you along every detail. If you have additional questions or you'd like something more fancy than what my free offer gives, we can schedule a 30-minute paid consultation. So, as you can see, there are 4 examples. And if you, I mean, these are very common examples that you've probably seen before several times in sales and in marketing. But if you paid attention, number 1 and number 2 were manipulation. Number 3 and number 4 are good old-fashioned persuasion. So all of the details will be on my article at How to Entrepreneur, 25 Signs You're Being Manipulated by Salespeople. But if you paid attention to that, this one is immediately insulting you. Stop being a lazy, unsuccessful bum and start making $500 a day. Now, this may be one on the extreme end, but I've seen lots of people who use these insulting methods in order to get people to take action. It's a form of manipulation. And they might just be arrogant. They might have like money in their, they might show a lot of their lifestyle or be extra flamboyant, and um, they might use all kinds of ways of being insulting, but they don't need to insult you in order to sell to you. And if you use that practice in sales, then you should stop, because it's unethical and it's not how you need to treat people. People can make a decision about what to buy and what not to buy without being insulted, without, without you saying that a free offer is free and then it's really not free. In more than one product that I've reviewed recently, there's a free offer, but then you really have to pay. Free is free, right? If you say that it's free, then it's free. And so those are traps that you can fall into as a consumer or even as a salesperson, because maybe you're in a company where they're saying this offer is free, and so you just repeat the same thing that they're saying, not realizing, not actually sitting down and thinking about whether or not their offer is ethical. Is it really free? So on both sides, as salespeople, as marketers, as entrepreneurs, or as consumers, we need to be mindful of these things that are happening. And you don't have to just be downright like negative towards the company when they have these practices in play. It's a graceful way to approach it, but it's also something that you have to be discerning about, whether or not you have the level of authority where you can make that influence, or if this is within your circle of influence, like Stephen Covey would say in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he talks about things that are within your circle of influence and things that are not within your circle of influence. And so for situations like this, you'll have to be discerning and decide whether or not this is something within your circle of influence, and possibly how you can grow your influence to where it is something you can change. Um, for me, I know that these things are common in the business world, and uh, as an internet marketer, as a blogger, as an affiliate marketer, different titles, different circles that I'm inside of, a lot of these practices are very common. And so when I do reviews, sometimes I am reviewing the ethics behind the sales, because I'll see manipulation and I'll see these different things, these telltale signs inside of the sales funnels and inside of the product creator and their videos and things that they're doing, and I try to point them out. Um, so, what is manipulation in sales and marketing? Manipulation in sales and marketing is the unethical pursuit of a sale by lying, omitting important information, or distorting the truth for personal gain, and potentially at the disadvantage of the consumer. Manipulative tactics can be spotted by trying to force a sale by using guilt or some other tactic because the customer is not showing interest in the product or service you're selling. So sometimes they will try to make you feel guilty that if you don't make this purchase, or if you don't donate to our cause, then all of these kids are gonna starve, or if you don't give to this fundraiser, then the church won't be able to have their lights turned on. If you don't um, buy now, then this product won't be available for other people. There's a lot of ways that these tactics are used. I've seen them used in even with well-intentioned people. They'll use these tactics not really paying attention to the fact that they're being manipulative. It might be a behavior pattern that they have. Um, I've accidentally done these things sometimes, and so I'm not trying to bash anybody, but sometimes these tactics can be used, and you really have to just spot them out, because you don't want to buy based off of these things, um, because you can end up buying something that isn't the best fit for you. And so you just have to be very careful, because a lot of times people will appeal to your emotions in order to get you to take action, and it's not the best reason to buy something. An example is the customer clearly shows a lack of interest in the offer, but the salesperson goes on to say, you shouldn't let your family struggle month to month. I'm selling an opportunity to get you out of that struggle. So that's an example. I've seen that type of example come up a lot in different business opportunities or in different professional development trainings. People will say things like that, where they make it seem like the only way for you to stop living paycheck to paycheck, or the only way for you to get your family out of this struggle, is if you buy what they have. And, you know, of course, there has to be habit change for you to get out of certain circumstances and situations, but it doesn't have to be guilt tripping in order to persuade a person to change their habits. Um, and so this practice can be misused, and I've seen it misused quite often. Another way is when you attempt to close a deal without the customer fully knowing and understanding how the product or service will help them to achieve a preconceived goal. An example: it's so simple to make this money online. I can't tell you all the details. Just pay the $1,000 and I'll tell you the first step. Um, And so I'm sure that example, you've seen that a lot. The salesperson is trying to push the customer to buy without them having all of the details to make a well-informed decision. Sometimes they'll omit a lot of information. And so when the customer actually does buy, they're very disappointed by what they bought because they were under the impression that, I mean, when there's details left out, then a lot of times you fill in the blanks. And so when the customer fills in the blanks and assumes that this is the package they'll get, then they get a different package and they're really disappointed. So it's best to be as transparent as possible to give enough details that they can make a buying decision. No, you don't have to disclose your whole product. Um, no, you don't have to give away your trade secrets or your intellectual property. But at the same time, you should give enough details that they can make an informed buying decision and that they'll know and understand if the product would achieve their goals or not. I even prefer when there's some type of sample or something that you can, tangible that you can give them so they'll be able to evaluate for themselves whether or not this product has the quality that they're looking for, whether or not the product, the teaching style, the methods that you'll be using to introduce them or um, to engage with them. I think they should just be able to evaluate the product and see if it'll suit their needs. Um, so oftentimes, salespeople are really focused on their own goals, and as a result of their focus on their own goals, trying to get leads, trying to get sales, trying to get their boss off their backs, trying to pay their bills, then they omit information so that they can push the person to buy. And that's really not ethical. It's not an ethical way to go about things. Um, and then they have an unwillingness to recognize or to rectify or reimburse a sale when a customer recognizes they've purchased something that won't help them achieve their goals. Sometimes this is done also. And sometimes these are coupled together. They'll force the sale, they'll use guilt tripping, they will omit information. Then when the person buys, then they won't give them their money back once the person realizes this isn't what I was looking for. And some businesses, even their money back guarantees are manipulative. They will say 30-day money back guarantee, and then somewhere during the checkout, they'll have this small print that basically says you can't get your money back unless you jump through all of these hoops. So you just have to be really, really careful with all of these things in the business world, even in your personal life, because these behaviors come up. And um, not to get too religious, but um, we all are subjected to temptation. And so these things are so tempting because, again, we all have the ability to be selfish at times. And when we're selfish, then sometimes we want our way. And, you know, these different behaviors can creep in because they effectively help you get your way. And so it's something you have to be really careful of because over time, in order to build strong relationships, in order to build trust, in order to build authority, in order to build loyalty and to have people that genuinely believe that you have their best interest, you can't do these things. You have to have integrity. You have to think about service before yourself. Um, and that's why I really loved when I was in the military and our core values. Um, it was integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. That was for the Air Force. That was our core values. And I still love those. But The unwillingness to rectify or reimburse a sale when a customer recognizes they've purchased something that won't help them achieve their goals, um, or the manipulative money back guarantees. So I've seen some companies where when a customer realizes they've purchased something, um, they will write to the business, and then the business will respond back and say something like, unless you show proof that you've read every line, or you've done all of this training, or you've like they have all of these stipulations, and they weren't really upfront with that before the purchase. I think that that's really manipulative, and they should have their money back guarantees and very clearly let the customer know that only under certain conditions will you be giving your money back. Um, if it's transparent, then it's not manipulative, but it needs to be transparent. Manipulation can be quite easy to fall into. It's common, um, and so there's a quote that I have here by Psych Central, and they talk about how manipulation can be unveiled in many ways. And the quote says, favorite weapons of manipulators are guilt, complaining, comparing, lying, denying, including excuses and rationalizations, feigning ignorance or innocence, the who me defense, blame, bribery, undermining, mind games, assumptions, foot in the door, reversals, emotional blackmail, evasiveness, forgetting, fake concern, sympathy, apologies, flattery, and gifts and favors. Manipulators often use guilt by saying directly or through implication, after all I've done for you, or and a helpless, chronically behaving needy and helpless. They may compare you negatively to someone else or rally imaginary allies to their cause, saying that everyone or even so and so thinks XYZ or says XYZ about you. Some manipulators deny promises, agreements, or conversations, or start an argument and blame you for something you didn't do to get sympathy and power. This approach can be used to break a date, promise, or agreement. Parents routinely manipulate with bribery, everything from finish your dinner to get dessert to no video games until your homework is done. Now, of course, some of these things I don't disagree with, like finish your dinner to get dessert. Um, I think that in these cases, some cases, these things can be warranted, but in some cases, like the after all I've done for you, guilt tripping, and um, when people play the victim, and when they uh, when they compare. I've seen in sales where people want to charge you a high price for something, so they will make it seem like their product is in comparison to something that's already like a well-known or high price. For example, if I was trying to sell a $1,500, or even let's say I try to sell a $15,000 marketing course, then I would say that the colleges are selling you marketing courses for $40,000. So why? So this one can definitely get you a return. So it should be worth, you know. Sometimes they'll make those type of comparisons to set the anchor higher than what it needs to be, when in reality the price is exorbitant for both. And so you have to be cautious about these things and these forms of manipulation that are happening in sales. Um, of course, sometimes you can end up in a positive situation even from going through, a manipulative salesperson. But when you spot them early on and you can point them out early on, and you can kind of caution yourself and not make decisions based off of their emotional push, then it gives you more power. Because sometimes they'll continue to emotionally push and emotionally push and emotionally push, and it can get to the point where, you know, if you're not aware, if your boundaries aren't strong, if you're not emotionally intelligent, then you can buy things that you don't need. I've seen people who sell their houses and their cars and things like that because they're dealing with a manipulative salesperson or a manipulative company that has convinced them that they need something that they may not really need, you know? Um, Okay, so in example one, the person used a pain point for the audience, which was being categorized as lazy or a bum. Um, Sometimes, like, manipulative people will use something that you really don't want to do or you really don't want to be, and they know that they can identify for a specific audience that this is a real pain point. Some people don't want to be obese. Some people really don't want to have disorganization in their houses. Some people really don't want to um, some people really, let me charge my battery. Uh-oh, that could have been ugly. So, some people really don't want um, certain situations to happen. And as a result of that, um, salespeople will use those pain points. Um, Maybe you really don't want to struggle anymore financially. You really don't want to, um, let's say, you don't want to be on welfare anymore. You don't want to be homeless anymore. And sometimes the pain points, like using this pain point to persuade, is a positive thing. But sometimes they will couple the pain point with an insult or couple the pain point with a product that doesn't solve your problems. And that's when it's wrong, because they might not be in it for you. And so you have to pay attention to if they're coupling this pain point with a product, and if this product truly can solve your problem, or if they're just trying to push this product on you because it solves a problem for them, you know? So you just have to be really careful when they've identified your pain point, when they've identified a when they've identified something that you're passionate about, or things like that, and they're using that to sell to you. You just have to be really cautious about it. That's all I'm saying. Um, Maybe your friends, family, or loved ones are referring to you in a certain way. They're using the same insult, and this reiteration by this salesperson, or by this video, or by this ad that you see, just makes it that much more of an emotional connection. So even when they omit information, or they don't give all the proof or anything like that, it could push you more because you're already, like, negatively programmed. So you just have to pay attention to those things and really self-analyze if you've been a victim of emotional abuse, or of verbal abuse, or things like that. Really identify those pain points that you have, those key words that people have been using, because all these things can cause you to be in negative cycle after negative cycle, go from relationship to relationship, manipulative relationship into another one. It can go cause you to to magnetize the same people in intimate relationships, in professional relationships, to go towards jobs that have manipulation, and to even regurgitate the same behaviors towards other people. So it's a pattern you have to identify because it's a cycle you really, really want to break. So um, similar to example number one and example number two is a very common manipulation technique being used nowadays. And I talked about this before, the freebie. Um, you have a course that they say is free and it really doesn't give any value. Because it doesn't give any value, and the person is saying all of the value is in this paid tier, then you would upgrade. And it sometimes it'll be that there's a course and they give it cheap, and the course is it gives away so much fragmented information that the course doesn't stand alone as a value, and so you feel pushed to purchase something else because this the lower tier doesn't give you anything. So you really have to watch out for these things. They can cause you to end up in bad situations because patterns like that, if they open the door with that pattern, it's likely that they'll continue that pattern throughout with their other products, with their other services, and with their other sales tactics. And so you just want to be very cautious about companies that are using those type of practices. Um, so, as an alternative to manipulation, you can be very persuasive in marketing and sales, and persuasion is the act of convincing. Um, while manipulation and persuasion can appear similar, there is a difference. And the difference is that persuasion is where you provide sufficient data to enable the customer to be convinced of the necessity of a sale. So, for example, if if you want to become better at math, and I show you a math book and all of the topics that it goes over, and you can identify that those topics are the ones that you need more help with, and I can show you that this book would definitely help you because it goes over the topics that you need. It's helped other people who were struggling in the same areas as you were, and we're also going to provide this level of customer support basically by being transparent and providing enough of the buyer's motives. Then you can make the sale. It's not necessary to say, look at this book, it has all these secrets in there, every area that you're weak, it solves your problems. Like, it's not necessary to do the manipulation in order to make the sale. So for example, I've personally been convinced that email marketing is good for my business because I've read several books that show that it helped other entrepreneurs to build relationships with their customers. So I didn't need an email software to come and say that my business is not doing well because I'm not doing email marketing, or that I would get that, just I didn't need manipulation. Um, there's ways that by me reading enough articles, by having white papers, or by having statistics, or by having success stories and customers who are willing to share their before and afters, there's so many things like that that you can use to sell, provide sufficient information by having a trial where customers can go and evaluate the software for themselves. Like, um, it can solve the problem. And there was a scientific study that shows the effect of manipulation, and it was actually done by Facebook in January 2012. Facebook did a study to see how manipulation affected their users. They experimented with 683,000 user accounts. For some, they omitted all positive posts, and for some, they omitted all negative posts. And the Facebook found that users who saw all negative posts like job losses, death, racism, and so on were creating more negative posts of their own. And users who saw all positive posts like vacation, raises, new babies, and positive things were creating more positive posts of their own. So, like when I mentioned, you want to be careful of which companies you do business with, what relationships you get involved with, um, and what people you align yourself with, what environments you are in. All of these things, this is just proof of what I was telling you, because the more manipulative people you're around, the more likely you are to even subconsciously adapt these habits. And then it gets to the point where you're not even aware that these habits are taking place. And so you really have to protect the things that you're putting inside, whether it's your music, whether it's your books that you're reading, whether it's the TV shows that you watch. All those things because you can pick up on habits that aren't positive and don't help you to reach your peak potential. And they actually can detract from your potential because you'll have habits that just suck your time. So these results indicate that emotions expressed by others on Facebook influence our own emotions, constituting experimental evidence for massive scale contagion via social networks. So this is a quote from Facebook, basically saying that we're influenced by the emotions of others, and it's true. Um, when you have a loss in the family or a loss at work or something like that, it permeates the entire environment. And everybody tends to empathize or tends to have some type of negative emotion as a result of seeing other people that way. It's just how we're wired. And the same thing's true when you're in a positive environment. So you really have to be subjective. I mean, you really have to choose the environments that you're around, the companies that you do business with, the people that you get training from, and you choose it carefully because it not only influences your skill level, your technical skills, but it also influences um, your core. Some of these things that they'll advise you to do, it'll be very difficult to screen through them to weed out what is ethical versus what isn't. Sometimes it gets really gray. So you just have to be really careful. More than ever, marketing and sales professionals are able to leverage personal psychographics for business use. Um, because of the social networks and because of Google and because of all the data and analytics that are readily available, businesses can identify people who they weren't able to before, and they're able to reach and segment audiences and demographics and understand your buying habits and things like that. And they can use the data to manipulate you. They can also use the data to be positive persuasion for you, and so you'll have both. But you really want to choose businesses and people who have integrity, who treat you with a high level of respect, who are honest with you, and um, who really have the servant heart and who are trying to serve you. And so 25 ways to identify if you're being manipulated. Let's go over some. Let's go over the 25. So one is they insult you. Two is they try to take advantage of bad timing. So maybe you're in a rush, maybe you have to use a bathroom, maybe you're late for work or something like that, and they try to take advantage of the fact that you're in a rush and it's just bad timing. They hoard important facts that help make the buying decision. They are telling emotional stories or playing with your emotions to bring influence on your buying decision. They're making big promises with no strategy to uphold it. They use volume, role, or position to make you feel cornered into a decision. Um, when I say volume, it can be either um, speaking louder because that they think that evokes authority. It can be either speaking louder or it can be by repetition, having lots of people or continuing to repeat the same things so that you feel cornered into making a decision. It could be their role, maybe they're your boss, or maybe they're your parent, or maybe they have a position and they are saying that you have to make this decision because of their position or role. They use subliminal messaging in music, videos, or images to influence your buying decision. I've seen this happen sometimes before where um, like the music that they will play or the videos or the images that they use, they do all of these things to like reiterate the decision they're trying to get you to make. They use manipulated images or verbiage to make promises you're expecting to acquire without the manipulation tools. So, for example, some companies will Photoshop images for weight loss products, or they'll edit products for vocal lessons. So then you'll think that if you take these pills or you buy this product, that you'll be able to get the weight loss results that they have in the image, but you don't know that the image has been photoshopped. You don't know that when you hear this person singing, like a lot of the singers, um, you don't realize that that audio's been edited and that that's not their real authentic voice. And so when you try to follow their path and go to the same singing instructors as they did, then you're expecting to get this beautiful, magical voice out of it, and it doesn't happen because you're not using the same software to edit it as they are. Sometimes they'll blackmail you. They fabricate testimonials or reviews. I've seen companies who buy them from Fiverr or places like that, or they pay actors to do testimonials or reviews and make a product look better than what it is. They omit bad reviews, they'll erase them, delete them, or just only put good reviews on their websites. They use your social circle to make you feel like an outlier. So maybe a lot of people in your social circle like a certain product or service, and so they'll say, or a lot of people who do door to door will do this. They'll say, well, um, all of your neighbors are using our service, and they'll make it seem like because all of your neighbors are using the service, then it's something that you should be using too. And sometimes it might be true, but sometimes it might not. And so you just need to be cautious about when these strategies are being used, not because they're always used in a negative way, but just because they may not always be valid for your circumstance. They compare you to others, and unfortunately, this happens a lot, where um, they will say, this is what the rich do, this is what the poor do, and it looks like this is what you're doing. So then you have poor habits versus rich habits. Sometimes, again, this can be true, um, but you have to just be cautious because not all the time is their argument a valid reason for you to purchase a product. And so when people are using these comparison tactics and all of these manipulative tactics, you need to be able to identify them and to sift through whether or not this tactic is promoting a positive action for you in your specific situation, or whether it's just riding on your emotions. You have to be able to really identify it. Um, they make you feel sorry for something you said or a concern that you voiced. So maybe you, like, let's see an example. Um, so maybe you, maybe you see a product and you think that the results came from a different product and that this company is fabricating the results, and you voice that concern, and then they, instead of responding back and saying, you know what, you're right, they start to respond back and try to make you feel sorry for even thinking that they would do something like that. I can't believe that you would think we would fabricate a review. I just can't believe you would think. And so they'll do things like that, and you have to just, oh, you have to be able to see through it, because all of this is just manipulation. They rush you into a buying decision that may not be well timed. So sometimes, like, there's a lot of tools, and so I can attest that they work, like scarcity clocks, and saying that we only have 30 seats left, and um, like just a lot of the things that you can say and do to push people to action. Sometimes the actions may not be well timed for you as the consumer. And even if I am ethically stating that I'm only going to keep this sale for the next 2 hours, there's nothing unethical about me setting that timeline, or for me to say that I'm only going to hold this price for 2 hours. Nothing unethical about that. But on the flip side, you as the consumer have to decide whether this is a well-timed decision for you. And just because the countdown timer is going to 0 doesn't mean that you should hurry and make a bad decision, a decision that's not well timed for you. Um, Sometimes they deny something that they said previously. You heard them say that they would give you one price, and then when it's time for you to pay, then they give you a different price, and they never will admit that they said the price from before. They try to, sometimes they'll even pile on different manipulative tactics to make it seem that it was you. You have to be careful of all this. They diminish your problems and highlight others. You might have certain problems that you're looking to solve with a product, or in the vertical where you're shopping, and they will continue to say, oh, that's not really a serious problem. What's a problem for most people is this. And so you have to be careful of that, because you really need to buy based off of what's going to be a solution for you, not based off of them highlighting of other problems. Even if they're highlighting other problems that you have to buy based off of what's going to alleviate your biggest concerns. It's your money. It's your time. It's your effort. They communicate in passive aggressive ways. Um, Again, these are all narcissistic, sociopathic, psychopathic traits. Um, and so, like, again, this book, In Sheep's Clothing, if you enjoy reading about psychology or understanding these behavior patterns, I would say check out some of the books by Dr. George Simon. I personally have read them, but I like studying psychology and things like that, so it was interesting for me. They communicate in passive aggressive ways. They make threats or use aggressive language. And this can be done in so many different ways. I'm going to cancel your policy if you don't do this. I'm going to, you know, you're not going to be able to be a member here if you don't do this. So sometimes those type of things, those are threats, and they might use them to get you to take action on something that's not necessarily good for you. They try taking you out of your element. Some examples are they use large vocabulary words that they know you probably won't understand, or jargon they know you won't understand. I've seen this happen a lot, especially in the medical field, or even in different technical career fields, I should say, not just the medical field, but in technical career fields, a lot of times they'll use acronyms, or They'll use lots of vocabulary, and they know that you won't understand it, but you don't want to look stupid. And they ride on that. They ride on the fact that you don't want to look misinformed. So they'll use these words to kind of evoke action, but it's not the best for you. Um, Sometimes they're just flat out bullies. They play the victim. I've seen this happen a lot too, where everybody was against me, and I'm just looking for somebody to be for me, somebody to have my back. I mean, everybody is just against me, and they play the victim, and um, they ride on your empathy. And as a result of riding on your empathy, they try to get you to take action. They act needy. For example, if you don't buy, then we won't be able to, you know, and if you're an empathetic person, then it's likely that you can feel, pushed to buy because you don't want them to lack, or you don't want them to be not unable to perform in some way or form. They're confusing you, and they make you feel like you have to make a purchase for clarity. And like again, when I talked about um, product creators who have several tiers of products. For example, they'll have products that are $30 and products that are $200, and then products that are $1,000 and products that are 5,000, product 10,000, 20,000. So that in the what they a lot of times what they do is in the $30 product they say so many things, and they make you so confused that you feel like in order to get clarity, because they've mentioned so many fragmented topics, in order to get clarity, then you have to buy this next product. And they may even convince you that this is a good thing for you to do. If I buy the $250 product, then I'll have more clarity, because the $30 product, I mean, I'm just not on the level to understand the $30 product. And that's kind of the psychological um, thing that you'll be convinced of, and then you'll think that you you have to upgrade, and really you're being manipulated. Um, yeah, because they should be able to give you value and give you something complete and give you proof of of that they can give you something A to Z at each level. Even if they have tiers of products or lots of products, you should be able to get a complete solution with each one. And so that method that is used very commonly is just manipulation. You buy something, they confuse you even more, they make you feel like you have to upgrade to get clarity. That's one thing I see a lot, and I really hate seeing it. Okay, and then lastly, the number 25, they're selling you something for them rather than for you. Okay, and ultimately, that's the reason for manipulation. Um, with persuasion, and you know, I shouldn't say that's always the reason for manipulation, because sometimes you can use these same tactics to get the person to the next level. But you just have to be extremely careful with the tactics, and that you're not taking away from somebody's confidence, that you're not being greedy, that you're not doing it for selfish gain, and that you're truly doing it because you want the best for the other person. And sometimes it's easy to convince yourself that you want what's best for the other person, but it has to be all the way through, like you believe that, um, and that you're really doing it for them. So, and as a consumer, as a customer, you really have to be able to evaluate whether or not the people that you're buying from are trustworthy, because a lot of times these tactics can be used to make you feel like um, they have your best interest, and you can be disappointed. Okay, so um, while persuasion and manipulation can both be done for a greater good, manipulation is overused and abused, and it's used to take advantage of other people. Um, and so I know this was a lot. It's a lot to think about. Um, if you practice manipulation, which most people, I would say 99.9%, run into manipulation at some time or practice a manipulative behavior. I'm pretty sure we all do it at some time or another. Sometimes it's for selfish reasons, sometimes it's not for selfish reasons. If you find yourself doing these for selfish reasons, you really want to try to change your habits. Um, you really want to try to change your habits because it's very damaging to your relationships. It's very damaging um, to the people that you're around. And overall, it's very damaging to you. It makes you have a paradigm that you shouldn't have. And so I really wanted to point this out. I hope this was helpful for you. I believe that it will be. You'll be able to do business and work with businesses with a much more informed perspective. Sometimes you can be manhandled into sales transactions that you shouldn't be. And if you're knowledgeable that these practices are taking place, then when you watch these videos where they have this compelling and emotional story, you can identify that this is an emotional story, but you can also separate your emotions from your decision-making process and make them logically. There's nothing wrong with there is something wrong with manipulation, but sometimes it's used to push you in a positive direction. Nothing wrong with that. Um, so just be careful. That's really my intention of this video, was to disclose enough information that you would be able to be careful when you're out there making sales and buying decisions, and even trying to sell to other people. You want to operate as ethically as possible with complete honesty and transparency. And yes, so if this video was good to you, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like it, please subscribe to this channel. And I create videos about entrepreneurship and lifestyle, and I would love to create more and to give you more information. Um, so that's all I have for you today. Have a great day. Bye.